Good morning, everybody, and welcome into WagerTalk TV. This is PuckTime. I am Andrew. I have Carmine and Bryan with me to break down 3 games, best bets at the end of the show, and also a bunch of promotions to bring up as well here. We've got the Kings, Devils, Avalanche, and Lightning, and the nightcap with the Detroit Red Wings in Vancouver to take on the Canucks. Looking forward to these guys breaking down some games, hearing from all of you in the live chat and the comment section after the video. But let's not waste any time. Let's talk about the dreaded LA Kings because they keep driving me crazy, Carm. So I'm curious what you think about this matchup, Kings and Devils. How this team keeps playing the way they're playing blows my mind with the roster that they have. I know they're a little bit older. They might be slower, Carm. But, man, this team, they just continue to play well below expectations. Devils are picking things up. What do you think about this matchup?
Andrew, they should be well rested because they didn't play in Buffalo the other night, losing 7-0 in that game. It's unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was seeing in that game. They're just completely flat, and you have to believe. And this is just as a hockey fan, but also is that a team's got to have some pride. This is a team that played well defensively for the most part of this season. They start off really bad, and they're going through spurts right now. You know, their games against the Oilers were good. The games against Nashville was also a good performance by this team, but they threw an absolute clunker in. And listen, you can play that game over 10 times, and the Sabres are not going to win that game 7-0 more than, the one time where they just didn't show up. Sometimes you got to draw a line through a game that it's an anomaly. And you say, throw this game out. Keep it in the back of your head, but you got to throw it out. You just have to throw it out and look at, is this team getting any better? It was just a bad performance on a night in which they just didn't show up, and the Sabres did. And this is why we ended up with such a crooked scoreline. The Bills beat the Rams 7-0 in that one with a converted touchdown. Listen, the Devils are starting to put some wins together as well, too. They beat the Kraken. They beat Nashville. I'm still not completely sold on them, which is why, because it was such a bad game by the LA Kings, that I want to play them tonight. And I think it's going to make my card, as crazy as it sounds. And I've had some crazy leans on this show throughout the year, and a lot of them have worked out. So this is one where even the market, I think, agrees with me. This line opened up New Jersey minus 130. I missed the boat on it. I could have got some plus money, plus 110 on the LA Kings overnight. I didn't. And now they're at minus 105. Big save Dave should be in goal tonight. Dave Riddick in goal for them. Dawes is confirmed for the Devils. I'm laying $1.05. As the underdog, I'm laying $1.05. And I'm taking the LA Kings tonight in this one. Let's see if we can get the better of the Devils. Bryan, welcome to the show, man. My apologies. I think I ditched you in Vegas. I completely apologize for that. But you're such a cool guy that if you got to choose between Kelly Stewart and Ariel Epstein and Pam Maldonado, or Marco and Brian Leonard, you sort of lean to the power play of the women. So I apologize. But give me your thoughts on this game.
Is he really sorry, Bryan? Is he really sorry?
Listen, I see you all the time, which is great down there. I'm going to come to spring training. We're going to hang out. We're going to catch some fly balls, have a few cold pops while we're down there, and enjoy ourselves. Plus, I'm going to be back in August and for the Circa signups and the Westgate signups contest, football signups. So I know I will see you then. But Bryan, I will say this before we go to the game, and I've done a lot of talking already on this one. I respect you for you always do this. I try and take Bryan out to a nice steakhouse like Prime, Barry's Prime or whatever. You know what Bryan says to me? This is his exact words. If I'm not going to go there myself and have dinner, I am not going to come on your dime and have dinner. That's a stand-up guy. He's basically saying,
Right.
if I'm not going to go there and eat normally, why would I come there just because you're buying? So yeah, you're a stand-up guy, Brian. I love it, man. So with that said, uh, how crazy am I wanting to take the Kings tonight?
He's heard enough. He's heard enough.
There's no audio for Brian, guys. No audio for Brian, they're saying.
Weird.
My
I can hear him just fine.
yeah, yeah. My everything's working good on my end. Okay, well, we'll
Keep
try it
going, Brian.
again. Yeah, I'm looking at the Kings as well. With the coaching change, you'd figure coming out with a 4-0 win over the Oilers, very impressive. But then they get blown out at Buffalo 7-0. So kind of, what are you going to get out of the Kings? I like the Kings. I think they're one of the better teams in the NHL. I like the way they played earlier this season. 15-7-4 on the road. They've been a very good road team. But you take a look, and I don't go back to a lot of the last 10 games because half of them for these teams were played in the first half. But if you do, you find the Kings with a goal percentage of 32.5, expected goal percentage of 54.56. Over 20% higher is expected than what they've done. So they've been playing with a lot of bad luck. 6 game in February for the Devils compared to 3 for the Kings. This is also the 3rd game in 5 days. New Jersey enters off back-to-back 2-goal victories. They should be very happy with themselves. And they got the Stadium Series against the Flyers on Saturday. So the spot screams LA, which is why the money's gone that way, and I agree. I think the Kings get back on track tonight.
The boys looking at the LA Kings, and this to me is one of those scenarios where what we saw in the last game, if we even see remotely close to that, we're not going to be feeling good. But the good news is, as Carmine reminded me, when unfortunately I'm the guy that had a big play on the Kings, that a loss is just a loss, right? We can harp all day long about how bad that loss was, but when it comes down to it, they don't lose any more points in the standings because they got their asses kicked that much. That's for sure, guys. But look, we saw a 4-2 result against Nashville for New Jersey, and then the 3-1, and then we saw even this back on February 10th, the 1-0 loss to Carolina. I'm still of the belief, and I'm going to keep preaching it, that I think success for the Devils comes with defensive hockey. And I know it does worry me a bit. Brian just mentioned how busy of a team they've been since the All-Star break. But guys, it's stuff that happens all the time. I mean, you lose on the Kings like I did last time out with a big play, and I'll see a whole new team out there tonight. But I do think that with that being a new team, it's going to have to start with their defense. When your offense is struggling to create chances, your defense is what has to show up. So I'm going to look towards the under here in this one, guys. I mean, you talk about motivation. You talk about bouncing back. A lot of times teams, when they're motivated and bounce back, the emphasis in the locker room is not going to be as much about them being upset they couldn't score, but more so being upset about how many goals they allowed. Like Carm said, the touchdown plus the extra point was good, and they didn't even get one on the board themselves. You know what I mean? So that's, to me, a struggle for the LA Kings. They're a team that's supposed to have forward depth, supposed to have center depth, supposed to be good in goal. Carm, I love the fact that you used the big save Dave expression, but he was no saves Dave on Tuesday. They had to pull him from the game, and to me, the fact that they're giving him confidence and potentially putting him back out there tonight, I like that from the coaching staff. Guys, I'm going to lock in the under here in this one. You know, I think that off the embarrassing loss, Devils looking good their last 2 games. I'm going to rock with hopefully a lower scoring game, and hopefully we can see a good defensive battle. So we got some Kings love on the show and some under love here. Guys, thanks for your patience. I believe we have everything all figured out. Thanks for being here with us. You know I don't love to ask too much, but please, if you're with me right now, hit the like button on this video. We'll try and get those likes up. It really does help us out, and we really do appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel as well. It just continues to grow, which is so great for us here at WagerTalk TV. We're going to go to Bryan now for his thoughts on, I think, what most people would probably agree is one of the games of the night. We've got the Colorado Avalanche and Tampa Bay Lightning going head-to-head. Overall, Bryan, before you dive into this game, I'm curious what you think overall about Tampa right now. Carr mentions a lot about this Tampa team. You don't have to see success from them in October and November. It's more so about this time, and right now they've kind of picked things up. What do you think?
Yeah, they have. I've been against Tampa most of the season. I'm not as anti-Lightning as Prez is. I think they're still a very good team. I just think they're a step down from years prior. So they're a team that's going to make the playoffs. I believe they'll make the playoffs. And once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. It's a veteran team. Colorado come here tonight. Final game of a 6-game road trip for the Avalanche. They finally tasted victory last time out of Washington, 6-3. They had been outscored the first 4 games of this road trip, 16-6. To score 6 goals in 4 games is not what I expected out of Colorado. I played them the other day on a team total over, and they never got there. In fact, they scored 2 goals in the first period. Still couldn't get there. One of the games that I had them. But this is a team right now, they're not playing well, and Colorado is one of those teams that when they're playing well, they're unstoppable. They look great, but they could go on these streaks where they don't play well, and it's one of them they're in right now. Tampa Bay returns home off a 4-game road trip themselves. After losing the first 2, they were able to bounce back the last 2 with wins at Boston and Columbus. Watched that Boston game. Tampa Bay looked good, but I thought Boston looked worse. And Boston looked like they weren't playing with any confidence at all, especially when they went into overtime. So Boston may be a team we can fade a little bit now, but we'll have to see. But Colorado struggled on the road all season long, and this is one of the strongest home advantages in the NHL. It's tough to go on a team playing at home in their first game right back after a road trip, but that would be the only way I would look today. I think Tampa Bay, the line's fair to play Tampa Bay here. Not the greatest scheduling situation, but I don't want any part of Colorado right now. They're a total mystery to me right now.
They are a mystery, and we're certainly seeing the difference between a team playing strong at home versus a little bit weaker on the road. Carm, you have a team that's getting back at home, as mentioned, but also a Colorado team that's been on the road for quite some time, it feels like. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, listen, I was perfectly happy with the Tampa Bay getting that win in Boston because I had them, and I was happy about Colorado. Like we talked, I think right out of the All-Star break, we talked about Colorado, and I said, listen, they got a 6-game road trip that is a really bad. I thought it was a bad road trip for them. They lose the first 4, and all tough games, and then I thought the one game, which wasn't going to be as tough, but it obviously involved travel because they were going from Florida and they got shut out and they go to Washington. And I had that one for clients. I had them in regulation because I wasn't about to lay the 190 or whatever. It was 120 regulation. And we hit that one. Now they go back to Tampa, and Bryan mentioned Tampa coming off a road trip and returning home. Listen, Colorado's going to show up tonight, but Tampa's not going to roll over and play dead in this one. And this is one where while we've seen some lower scoring games since the post All-Star break, this is one in which we're going to see some goals. These Colorado games on this road trip, there's been a lot of XG generated. You look at their game against the Capitals, 4.02 to 2.95, so almost 7 goals of XG created. The game prior to that, 4-0 game, Colorado still created 3.42 in all situations of XG, 497 for Florida. The one prior to that, 516 for the Hurricanes, 246 for Colorado, and then 4 for the Devils, 3.25 to 2.4 for the Avalanche. The only low one was the 2-1 game against the Rangers, where they lose that game, but they won the XG battle, 325 to 216. And there's just a ton of goals in their games. They weren't clicking. And I mentioned in that Washington game, they were getting some secondary scoring, but they just weren't scoring, and they needed to get it. And some of the guys came to the forefront in that game. We haven't seen the best of Nate McKinnon on this road trip at all. So I'm looking for him to be on the forefront today. I would probably take McKinnon to score it, but I think he's like minus 120-ish. I never like laying juice on a goal scoring prop, Andrew. I don't know why. I think they should always be at least plus 105 on one of the guys. But I think we're going to see goals in this one. I think this goes over the 6.5, and that's going to be my lean on this one.
Looking for some goals there at the end of the road trip for one team, first game back at home for the other. I completely get it. And they haven't really been there offensively. You mentioned it, Carm. When we came back from the All-Star break, the schedule was definitely tough for the Colorado Avalanche. And overall, they've dealt with it. They've gone through it. They've gone through some struggles, but they have bounced back in a way. But I still think they're not satisfied. They know this has not been a road trip to write home about. This has not been a road trip to be proud of. A lot of times I want to bet against the team at the end of the road trip. I want to bet the overs with a team at the end of a road trip. I want to bet the team total overs for the other team at the end of a road trip. But in this particular situation, I think this is a Colorado team that still has to get going. I mean, you look at some of the losses, and here's the deal here. You can beat up on bad teams. You can score goals on bad teams, but when you play the Rangers, Devils, Hurricanes, Panthers, you have to be able to pick up some wins. That win against the Washington Capitals is against the Washington Capitals team I think the three of us will probably look to bet against for a large portion of the second half of the season. So when you look at that Carolina game, the Devils game, Panthers game, those are games they wanted to win. I'm sure they want to win all the games, but they're well aware that those other games are probably a lot more meaningful than the Washington Capitals victory. Big win for Tampa Bay, coming off an exciting one over the Bruins when they were plus 135 dogs. And then other than that, they had that win against Columbus, who just fired their GM. To me, I'm a believer in Tampa Bay. Like Brian said, I'm not really as down on them as Preza is, but I still think that we're getting a good price here on a Colorado team that's better than them. That's a step up and should be very motivated in this spot. So it's been a poor road performance from this Colorado team, but I believe they can have a good one here tonight, guys. So I'm going to lock in Colorado on the money line here. How long before you stop even feeling like you're on a road trip at this point, guys? I mean, they've been on the road for so long, Carm. It feels like normal right now, probably for them.
No, listen. For Colorado, it'll be interesting once they head back west how they do. Listen, they're a team with a lot of star and a lot of firepower and a lot of stars on that team. They'll eventually be better. Obviously, they would be so much better if they had Landeskog back as well too. But the Tampa Bay Lightning coming back from a 4-game road trip. It's not the typical team returning from a 4-game road trip because they're not going west coast to east coast in this one. You look at their 4 games post All-Star break, and it was against the Rangers, the Islanders, Columbus, and Boston. It was just up and down the east coast there. A couple of days or a day off in between travel on the last couple of games. Not really worried about that part of it. The part I always go to Prez after Prez on is the point of Tampa Bay is an old team. Tampa Bay is a tired team. I think it's such a terrible narrative to use. And I mentioned it when you guys were talking about it on the show. I was in the live chat. Tampa Bay's average age is 28.8. Boston's was 28.5. Are we really saying that Tampa Bay is an older team than Boston just because they're 3 months on average older? Number one. Number two is when they talk about they've gone through so many Stanley Cup runs, let's remember one of their Stanley Cup runs was during the pandemic where it was a 50-game season, not an 80-game season, and it was played in the bubble. So there was no travel back then. So I don't buy into a team is exhausted, a team is not playing well because they're tired or old or what have you. So I know Prez is not watching this show right now. So or else he'd be in the with his blah 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 in the live chat right now, Andrew. But let's get back to the final game of the night.
And the funny thing is, the time that we thought Prez was watching, it was someone that made a burner account with his name. That cracked me up. I thought it was actually him watching the show. We shouldn't have been kidding ourselves. He's not watching this show. We could say whatever we want about him. He would never even know.
He's currently at the store buying chocolates 50% off to give to Vivian today as the after Valentine's Day special. So we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I saw him tweeting out yesterday that he was at the flower shop at like 8 p.m. It's a little bit late, don't you think? I don't know. I mean, just me think that's a little bit late to go buy those. But guys, speaking of which, we had a bunch of specials for Valentine's Day. We do have one more special. The rest of February, this is good till Sunday. This is $149, and that's every single sport released, every single play, whether it's soccer, hockey, basketball, UFC, whatever it might be. $149 works for Brian, works for Carmine, works for myself. Expires Sunday at midnight. $149. No coupon code needed. Go to our profile pages. You can grab that package. Always better to get a couple days, get a week, a month versus just buying one single play. Brian, I saw you. Did you have anything to add there?
Nope.
All good. All right, let's move on to the next one. We've got the Red Wings and Canucks. Canucks listed as minus 180 favorites, total at 6.5 here in this one. Carm, we'll get your thoughts here. We've got minus 1.5, puck line being plus 130. Vancouver at home. What do you think, Carm?
So, one of the things is I was looking at the overnight line to look at this one to see if any money came in on Detroit, because they go into Edmonton and they get pretty much bombed in that in that game. But the Oilers have been doing it to a lot of teams. And then I thought maybe some money comes in on the over, but it's been a little bit of the reverse, that some under money has come. It's more so from a juice aspect of it, that it's pushed it down from like minus 130 to minus 125 and on the over, and that probably could go a little more. So if you're looking to play the over on this one, you can save yourself a little bit of vig just by waiting. I think it'll probably hit like 115 on the over before we get to game time. It's funny because this Wings team, Andrew, has played competitive over the last little while, but they go to Edmonton and they pretty much get bombed there. You can look at this rapid revenge spot for the Canucks here, because they ended their trip, I think, in Detroit, losing that game 4-3 in OT. But the Wings could be a live dog here, plus 155. And listen, I get it. Vancouver's having a fantastic season, but at some point, a little bit of regression comes in. And this is a team that we talked about returning off, unlike Tampa Bay, returning off a road trip. They played in Carolina, Boston, Detroit, Washington, Chicago, and now they're back home. Detroit could catch them napping early. I'm willing to take some plus money here on this one. Now, it's not going to be a client play. It'll probably be one of those Bianco pizza plays late at night, and then I call Domino's after it hits. Domino's isn't the best pizza, by the way, but all the other places are closed. Give me the Red Wings here, plus 155, and we'll see what Brian has to say.
First of all, talking about Prez buying candies the second day for half price, that's the smartest thing Prez has done since marrying his girlfriend, I'll tell you that. But looking at this game, the Red Wings been in a couple high-scoring games since the All-Star break, a 4-3 home overtime win over these Canucks, and then an 8-4 loss to Edmonton. But this has to be the most difficult schedule coming out of the last week, having to play Vancouver twice and Edmonton. the way they've been playing. Vancouver, 3-2 since the break, with all 5 games being on the road. First game back, similar to last game we talked about. First game back home, which is always a concern for Vancouver. They've been overplaying their peripherals all season long. They continue to do so. Every once in a while, you'll find a team like that. We saw Boston last year was just amazing in that regard. So do you play Vancouver because they continue to overperform? I'd like to play Vancouver here. The line's too high. There has been money, as was said, coming in on Detroit. But unless I can lay less than 170, I'm probably going to pass with Vancouver. I want to bet them, but not at this number. See something in the 160s, I'll have a small play on them.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about the price here in this situation. And you kind of wonder which Red Wings team are you going to get. But guys, I was talking hockey earlier this morning and asked about this Vancouver team. The shooting percentage is an analytical stat always worth mentioning, right? Because you talk about expected goals, but shooting percentage is something where it's just like, how many shots does it take for a player or a team to score a goal? And this Vancouver team, it's contagious in the locker room. They shoot from all angles. They score ugly goals all the time. They score from the point. They score from the blue ice. And they seem to just continue to sustain this shooting percentage they have, which is just, to me, ridiculous. They've been top 5 for the entire season in the shooting percentage statistic. And with this Detroit team, whether it's against this very Red Wings team, who they lost, or Red Wings beat them 4-3, obviously, but then they play the Oilers to give up an 8-piece against them. Against the Vegas Golden Knights, the game goes over. Detroit scores 5. It seems to me, guys, when Detroit plays superior teams, it seems that they always play an over style of games. It's almost like Detroit says to themselves, hey, if you can't beat them, join them. They don't think defense is going to help them, so they might as well try and outscore them. It's always pond hockey. It's always fast-paced hockey. And right now, Detroit certainly has the offensive talent, guys. There's no denying it. But is there a point where they might not have enough defensive forwards? Because I feel like that could be an issue for them. Down the stretch, they're going to want to win more games, 3-2, 2-1. They beat the Flyers 3-0 the other day. But they find themselves against, whether it's the Stars, the Canucks, the Oilers, the Knights, just in these high-scoring games. And same thing for Canucks. When they're playing teams like the Red Wings, I always find we're seeing some back-and-forth games. Both teams have good power plays. I'm on the over 6.5 in this one, guys. Looking for some goals here, and I won't waste any time. That's my best bet. So we will not need to skip to go towards that. That's my best bet here on the show for today. Over 6.5, Detroit and Vancouver. One best bet going today so far in the NHL for me. We're involved in some college hoops action, just one small play that will be loaded a little bit later on today. Other than that, guys, that's it for me here today on the show. That's my best bet, over 6.5. We'll swing things over to Carmine for his thoughts.
And I just want to jump in with one last thought on this Vancouver game, because, like I mentioned, they're coming back off this road trip to East Coast. Demko played 4 of the last 5 games. He's not confirmed as of yet. I'm seeing line for Detroit and Demko for Vancouver as the expected goalies tonight. But you look at it, and they've got a big game coming up in a couple of days as well, too, against the Winnipeg Jets. So, off a road trip in which he played 4 of the 5 games, I think, on the road trip. If you're going to bet this one, you might want to wait until the goalies are confirmed. Because let's say you like Vancouver, and then all of a sudden you see it's Casey DeSmith in goal. Do you still like Vancouver tonight? You might not like Vancouver as much if you see Casey DeSmith. So wait until you get a confirmed goal if you like Vancouver, because trust me, the game against Winnipeg is a biggie with these teams battling for those top spots in the Western Conference, and using your best goalie at home first off a road trip against an East Coast team might not be one of those plus EV spots, but wait and see. Who knows? If you look at Demko and Vancouver over the last 20, 30 games, he normally doesn't play more than 3 or 4 games in a row. they've been giving them a rest after every couple of games and tossing in DeSmith there. So it's something that you might want to look at before you actually put any of your hard-earned money on a minus 200 or minus 195 line. Even if you think the rest of the team can get it done, you always want your number one goalie in there. Andrew, as far as what I have up, 2-0 yesterday in Champions League off of a previous 2-0 day. So 4-0 in soccer the last couple of days, 3 plays up in the Europa League. Today, the action kicks off this afternoon, of course. And my hockey card is going to be up shortly. I have 4% best bet that's loaded already, and 3 more plays to come. So there'll be a 4-pack, and that rest of February is a fantastic deal. 149 every single play, including 5% plays across all sports. So you can pick that up, and it's a leap year, so you get an extra day in February on top of it. My show best bet, I am going to go to the Ottawa Senators game, and I'm going to take the Ottawa Senators team total. The Sens are starting to string some wins together. It's because they're starting to find their scoring touch, and 4 wins in a row at home. Their last 10 games, they are 7-3 on their team total overs. So we're going to look again for them to get over that total again against the Anaheim Ducks, who have allowed 5 goals in each of their 2 games after the All-Star break. They're a little leaky on defense right now. Ottawa Senators, we've got to lay a little bit of vig. 165, I know seems like a lot, but let's take them over 3.5 minus 165 team total. Brian Leonard, what do you got for us?
I'm going to start off with, I was talking about teams playing their first game back in the second half. San Jose last night was the final team to play their first game of the second half, and they lose that game 1-0. Teams playing the first game back in the second half this year have averaged 4.63 goals. When your average line in the NHL is about 6, that may be something it's obviously a small sample size of 32, but something we can take a look at for next year to see if we get more of that. Because 4.63 is a pretty good number against an average of 6. So we might be able to make some money next year, as I did this year in that regard. Today in hockey, I've got a 4% and a 3% up in hockey. I've already got 2 plays up in college basketball with more to come. Great specials out there right now. You want to take advantage of that. My best bet on today's card, as you just talked about a team total, I'm going to use a team total also. And I'm going to play the Pittsburgh Penguins under 3.5 as the team total here. Only once this season has Pittsburgh game gone over the total in the second game of a back-to-back. That was 7. There's been a lot of 3s and 4s and 5s out there for Pittsburgh games in the first game, the second game of a back-to-back. Their last 10 games overall, the Penguins have stayed under the total 8 of those 10 games. And when you take a look at the Blackhawks, we know they can't score a lot. The only way they can win is by playing low-scoring games. They're only allowing basically 2.5 goals a game their last 13 games. So they're allowing 2.5. Pittsburgh's got to score 4. I like the Pittsburgh under the 3.5 here at a reasonable price on the juice of minus 125.
I mean, this Penguins team is struggling to score right now. We always talk about team total overs, but nice to get the team total unders as well. I like both of those plays, guys. Let's have a big night tonight. 3-0 sweep here with the best bets.
Andrew?
Cashed in with the client plays, and hopefully we can get some winners out to the customers, Carm.
Yeah, listen, Andrew, I'm going to get you to close it off, but I know there's some people wondering, are you going to have a PuckTime show tomorrow because there's only one game? Andrew and I are also going to cover a couple of Saturday games as well, too, and then we're going to have the 6 and 60 for you as well, too. So we will be here tomorrow. It'll just be Andrew and I. Andy Lang, I switched him over to Monday so he would get an appearance on the show. So you'll have some Friday content, so we look forward to you guys always tuning in and using my best Prez voice. Guys, let's get some likes. Hit that like button, please.
I thought you were going to say, I'm rolling in every single sport. I thought that's what I was going to hear from you. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. We got WagerTalk today coming up at 12 o'clock Eastern. We'll see you tomorrow right here on PuckTime for more hockey talk.